Ciao ragazzi, bentornati al settore fucsia. Oggi avremo un episodio un po' speciale con un ospite speciale, Michaela, conosciuta su tutti i suoi social come SheLovesF1. Per noi è un onore. We wanted to thank you, Michaela, to be here with us. It's a pleasure and it's an honor because, I think you are one of the greatest content creator of our time here in F1 because you have your own style, which we love because, as you say, it's like F1, but a little bit spicy.
Yes.
So thank you to be here.
Thank you for having me. Grazie mille. Mille.
Okay, so do you guys want to say something before we start, or?
Well, I think we should, of course, thank you again for accepting this interview. And this is going to be our first interview in English, so you're going to open up the doors for the shift of Settore Fucsia. And, well, of course, the first question is where the idea of SheLovesF1 comes from, because you talk about it on your social media and on your website, but where the actual idea arrived. And of course, as we are women in motorsport and we love the sport, but of course we have met through the process a lot of issues. And I don't know if maybe you want to talk a little bit about those issues that you encounter in this process.
Yes. I think that most women, if not all women, have had a scenario, whether they've been on track or they've been online, in like a motorsport community where they've been judged or ridiculed for being a fan of motorsport. And so She Loves F1 was really born out of a frustration when I was on track where, you receive the tried and true commentary, oh, you're only here for the drivers because you think the drivers are hot. And I've been a fan of motorsport my entire life. I've been watching Formula One for quite a long time. And it was only until, I would recite, all of these facts and stats, and they'd be like, oh, now you're a real fan, after proving myself. And that would happen the entire weekend back at the 2021 United States Grand Prix. And I had been at this Grand Prix several years before that. So it just was so frustrating to me that there was this immediate snap judgment that because I was a woman, I was only there because I thought the drivers were hot. It wasn't because, I loved the racing or I loved the technology or I loved the engineering. Or even if I really did just think the drivers were hot, why does that even matter if that's why I wanted to go to a race in the first place? And so I really just wanted to create an online account, one, so I could stop talking to all of my friends who had no idea what Formula One was. And they were just, sick and tired of me talking about it. But two, just to create a community where people really felt open and welcome to be themselves however they wanted to be, whether they wanted to talk about the drivers being cute, or they wanted to talk about tech, or they wanted to talk about the racing without judgment, and really just a community where people really truly could be themselves and meet other people for the shared sake of loving motorsport. And now we have this community of besties all over the world, and we watch races together and we talk about content online together, and it really is so fun. And She Loves F1 was, I didn't want my name to be a part of it because I really wanted it to be a community of women. And of course, it's not just women, it's all he, she's, theys are welcome here, but a place where people can truly be themselves, show up themselves however they want without that judgment and ridicule that we often face as women in this space.
I think this is very nice of you also to let people be themselves, but we also know that the other face of a coin of posting something online is that there is still a lot of hate. And so I wanted to ask you, because sometimes you also share with us, with your audience, comments, DMs of people hating on you for what you post online. So my question is, how do you cope, or how did you learn to cope with these things?
I can't say that it's an easy thing to read really awful things about yourself on a really consistent basis. I think we're all humans at the end of the day, and I think everyone wants to be liked and accepted by other people. But I think my mission is a lot bigger than myself. So if someone is leaving me a mean comment, that usually says a lot more about them than it does about me and whatever I'm posting. And I really, truly just want to inspire other women and other people to be confident enough to, despite what anyone says about them, to really have that confidence to show up online authentically. And if I can keep doing it despite all that hate that I receive, that hopefully that can encourage someone else, despite whatever negative comments they might get, that they can just push past it. I think it's really helpful to have a support system outside of the online space. I think we sometimes in this world get so caught up in F1 and motorsport, and it's a really big world out there, and people online feel very protected sometimes behind their
Hmm.
keyboards or their phones or their computers or wherever they're leaving those nasty comments from. And that's a lot more, like I said, it's a lot more about them than it is about me. And you just kind of have to let it slide off of your back. And that just gets easier with time, I think, just because the more you see it, the less it means about you. Like I just don't take it
Yeah.
personally because it's just not true. If they're saying that about me, they probably don't know me as a person, because people who do know me know that I am someone who loves to lift people up and loves to make people smile, and truly, truly, like the name says, I love Formula One. And I think the people who get that. And we're all about positivity and lifting people up, and throwing some fire emojis on really good Instagram photos or whatever the case may be. So I think, empowered women empower women, right? And so it's just one of those things where it is really hard. And I can't say that there aren't some days or several times I've just wanted to throw in the towel and be like, this isn't worth it anymore. But at the end of the day, I think there's power in numbers. And look at us here. I'm talking to three beautiful women who are in Italy. I'm in America, and we're talking about Formula One. And I think that's just so cool that we're able to do that despite what any naysayers or trolls online might have to say about
Yeah.
that. But their
Mhm.
opinion isn't important to us. What is important is really inspiring conversations like these.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we created the podcast with this intention, like, because also here in Italy, there are a lot of mean comments toward girls watching F1. Also now with Drive to Survive, so there are a lot of younger girls watching the race, and we had the possibility to leave the race in a pit lane, leave the race in a paddock. So the shock of adrenaline that these sports give you, I mean, it's okay. The drivers are hot. Okay, we know that. But when they race, also they wear the helmets. They are inside a car. You can't even see them. So that's not the point, you know.
At all.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
there's nothing like being at a race weekend. Like when you're there and you feel the adrenaline and you hear the sounds and you smell it and you hear it, it's so exhilarating. There's nothing like being at a race. And while I hate the fact that the tickets for Formula One specifically have gotten so
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
expensive,
Yeah.
and it's become quite inaccessible for most people, which makes me sad because going to a race and experiencing it in real life is truly such a magical experience that I wish more and more people could experience themselves, because that just takes everything that you watch on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts. It's just so much different when you experience it in real life. And that's why we're there, right? It's that
Mhm.
feeling. And then you have the community of people, and you can meet people on racetrack, and you can make friendships. I've made some of the closest friendships I have today from people that I've met at races, which is crazy to think about. So it's just so cool to be able to continue meeting people all over the world, and talking to people like you on this podcast. And you started this podcast with each other, and I'm sure the sky's the limit for all of you as far as going to races and hopefully getting more and more experiences within this
yeah.
space.
Yeah. It's what we hope for Settore Fuchs and for all of us. It's the ultimate goal to be able to work in motorsport in general. It's, of course, Formula One is a pinnacle of it, but it's the goal is to work in the industry. And you were talking about going to races, and of course, being in America, you have IndyCar, which I have to be honest, I am a big fan. It's absolutely amazing. And I would like to ask you, how is to go to an IndyCar race? Because of course, we hear the Screaming Mills boys talking about it. We hear Marcus talking about it, and everyone says a lot more accessible than Formula One. And I think it kind of reminds me of the Italian championship that we have here. So, the paddock is open for everyone. Of course, the tickets are free here in Italy for our races. And of course, last week you were with McLaren, Aaron McLaren. You were guest in their box. So how was it? How was their experience, the feeling, meeting the drivers, see the car?
Oh, IndyCar is honestly my true love. I've been watching IndyCar since I was a young girl, thanks to my dad. So I'm so excited that people are starting to learn more about it and be curious about IndyCar, because it really is such a great motorsport series here in America. They also have a race in Canada. But yes, I was at their season finale in Laguna Seca, which is in California. And for a fan experience, the tickets are inexpensive. The access is unparalleled. I mean, you'll be walking around in the paddock and drivers are just walking by you, or they're on their scooters. And you truly have access like no other. And specifically for F1 fans who kind of know how regimented races can be, and you definitely don't have that kind of access. And now with the increase in popularity, it's so crowded. So when the race ends and everyone goes goes to the podium, there's hundreds of thousands of people, and you're just kind of like stuffed like sardines. And it's really it's so fun, but there's so many people there, and the likelihood of you being face to face or interacting with drivers and teams is a lot more difficult because of those. But at IndyCar, it's almost the exact opposite. I mean, we were well, I wasn't a guest of Arrow McLaren. They were so nice and friendly, and they invited us to go and stand there and listen in on qualifying. And what like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Like, what an insanely cool experience to be listening to Pato talk to his engineer during qualifying. I had tears in my eyes because I was just like, what is happening? It's just one of those experiences. And I can't say enough good things about IndyCar. Everyone is so welcoming. It's so easygoing. Like, the paddock is, there's just like a breath of fresh air, because it just feels like everyone's so excited to see you there. And everyone, like, is welcoming and saying hello and inviting you into different places. And so it really feels like, if you're a fan of motorsport and you love the racing, you love the adrenaline, you still have those driver personalities that a lot of people really like from Formula One, you definitely are going to see that in IndyCar too. For example, Pato O'Ward is definitely like a fan favorite. He does a really good job on social media of engaging with everyone. And Arrow McLaren, just like McLaren and F1. I mean, what a great team. There's so many young people there that are really excited about motorsport, and they're doing trends on TikTok and online that kind of get people really engaged and really excited. So I really can't say anything bad about IndyCar. I hope everyone tunes in next season. It's going to be really good. This season was great. Obviously, Alex Palou won the championship. And just so many talented drivers and amazing teams. And it feels a lot more likely that you can attend a race, because it doesn't cost, thousands of dollars just for a ticket. You can get into the paddock, you can get into the pit lane for a lot less money probably than you would be spending to go to, a race for Formula One. So I think I love it.
We were thinking about coming, but I mean,
Yeah.
The tickets are less expensive, but also we have the travel to come.
The travel.
So that's one of my dream in my life is to come to the 500. The one I
Yes.
watched it in on TV was, oh my God, it was absolutely amazing. You know, I never saw, you know, of course, Formula One is a very competitive sport, but with IndyCar, you can take your eyes off the screen because something is always happening. Something is happening in the pit lane and then on the track. So it's very, you get your heart is you're very close to a heart attack most of the time, so it's
Oh yeah,
it's
it
very
is.
it's an amazing. And also I of course IndyCar created a very short series for the 500, which is 100 days to Indy. And I wanted to ask you if you think that maybe IndyCar needs something similar to Drive to Survive as Formula One. So let me explain a little bit better. Of course, Formula One became famous again because of Drive to Survive, and a lot of drivers, Pato included, he said, we need something that is more extended. That the 5 episode series that was the 100 Days to Indy. Do you think that for IndyCar needs something like that, or just social media is enough for the series?
I mean, I think I loved 100 Days to Indy. I thought that was really great, especially to bring new eyes into the sport, similar to what Drive to Survive did. Obviously, Drive to Survive, you had like this perfect storm of being on Netflix and then COVID, so everyone was stuck at home and they had like nothing to do. And then you had this surge of content creators talking about Formula One day in and day out. And I think as a result of that, it just exploded. And you had the 2021 championship between Max and Lewis that was obviously very competitive, that ended very controversially. And I think that brought a lot of eyes to the sport. So I think that might be hard to recreate, honestly, for any other series. But I think any sort of series where it is bringing eyes that people can watch on a TV show and kind of learn more about the sport, learn more about the teams, learn more about the drivers, the different racetracks, I think that's always a good thing. And honestly, getting more content creators excited about IndyCar. I think that content creators, people are starting to notice the eyes that they are bringing to the sport because, you know, podcasts and creators and influencers, where, you know, they're talking about the sport every single day. And they're also talking about it in a lot of different ways. So they're touching so many different people and talking about it in a way that maybe traditional media messaging wouldn't. So it might get someone more excited about it that maybe if they were, you know, watching a race on TV, they might not know what was going on, but maybe they listen to this podcast and they're like, "Oh, I remember that they were talking about this." So I think there's so many different ways for people to find out about sports these days, whether it's talking about fashion, whether on track, whether it's talking about the racing, whether it's talking about the social media and fun memes that they're doing. There's so many different ways that I think people get excited about sports. And I think that's really fun to see how people are kind of playing with that online and getting inspired to talk about sports however they want, because it's only going to get more people excited about these series, specifically IndyCar, that has been maybe a little bit less known internationally, but I think we're going to start to see more and more people get excited about it.
Yeah, I wanted to link with what you just said about influencer and content creator because mostly here, because when I open Twitter, I see the Italian platform, you know, a lot of people from Italy, a lot of people complained about how many influencers were invited to mostly in America, but also in the other races, to the races in Formula One, and they didn't even know who Charles Leclerc was, what a hot lap was. And so there was this big storm on Twitter about a lot of content creators that do contents about F1, and maybe they didn't receive any invitation, or nobody think about us because we are smaller and maybe we are in Italy, because also we saw the differences about how many people you can reach when you are in Italy, or when you are in UK, in America, because we know that TikTok is used mostly in the Americas. So we have a different audience. So what do you think about this, about the fact that a lot of people that doesn't even know the sport are invited to these events?
I think I see both sides. So I feel, as someone who creates obviously very niche content surrounded by motorsport, we know all of the ins and outs of the series. And I think when you create content for it, I feel like it's easy for me to say that most of us, it's our dream to, be invited and work with a team or watch a race and have those opportunities that these really big celebrities and influencers get. That is the dream for us, because we would appreciate it. That's what we eat, we live it, we breathe it. That's we're constantly manifesting it, and hopefully teams can start to see the ROI of maybe smaller platforms, but they already have those really engaged fans that love the sport and talk about it, and can hit certain demographics that maybe the teams and the sports themselves are looking to hit. On the other hand, these huge celebrities and influencers that have millions and millions and millions of
Yeah.
followers, while they might not know about the sport itself, they are bringing in huge amounts of eyes to the sport, that maybe even if it's a small percentage of people that turn on the race or start watching the race, it's a huge number of people that maybe have never heard about it before, that are now going to be interested into the sport. And for me personally, I love the fact that new people are going to start watching the sport. We all started off not knowing anything about it. And I really want to be someone that doesn't want to, you know, deter someone because they don't know about it. I've always wanted to be someone that, regardless of your knowledge level, I really want you to feel welcomed in this sport, because I know what it feels like not to feel welcomed. But it is really hard, because you're seeing people who don't, have those opportunities not get them, and someone does. But I think that's just how business works. They want the people with the blue check marks, with the millions of followers.
Yeah.
But I think obviously for the American races, that's kind of American culture almost for those races. But when you're going to other races, like I've been to Grand Prix in Italy and Spain, and it really is just such a different experience. You have fans there who are so engaged, who are so passionate, who would do anything for Ferrari, for example, in Italy, right? I mean, like the Tifosi are some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen in my life, and I love it. So I think there's a balance, and I'm hoping that we can find that as we kind of navigate this creator economy and the influencers. But I can see both sides, and I know that's kind of an annoying answer, but hopefully we can find a balance where we can have more of those smaller niche creators, and then some of those, bigger influencers. I think, for example, at the Circuit of the Americas, the United States Grand Prix, they invited only motorsport creators to this creator event, which I thought was so exciting for them to really lean in and recognize people who are talking
Yeah.
about the sport day in and day out. So I'm hoping that maybe some other circuits can follow in suit and kind of realize that those people really appreciate those opportunities, and their audiences are going to get really excited and inspire, and probably heavily engage with the content that they would create on track.
Yes, because I mean, it's a great recognition also for the people creating content. Um, but also, I understand also the other side, as you said, no? Because in the end, Formula One, the teams, they are a business, so they also have to
Yep.
think to the other side. So I get it.
Yeah, we
However,
all know that F1's main priority is money. I don't think anyone would
Yeah.
disagree with that. So it's not entirely surprising, right? And at the end of the day, it is a business. All of the teams, they're in business to make more money, and that's just how it works sometimes. But I do think that there should be a lot of recognition for creators, for podcasters, for the people who really truly love this sport, because there's nothing like listening to someone who really is passionate about motorsport, because for me that's where those really fun conversations happen, and really amazing organic content when they're on track, because they're just so excited. And when you see someone excited, it makes you excited. I love watching videos of people who got an opportunity at, like, for example, I think I just saw Mercedes, they had like this super fan, and then Lewis surprised her, and you could just see the look on her face. I mean, can you imagine if Lewis Hamilton tapped you on the shoulder after you did a hot lap? Like, that's basically a dream for everyone. So I think they are starting to notice and kind of play with that. So I think we might begin to see a little bit more of those really special experiences for people like us who really truly love this sport and love talking about it. So again, I hope that I think there's a balance there, and I think we'll find it.
Okay. So also, I want to ask you a little bit of a controversial question. I don't remember exactly who talked about it, but one question that came up is that, do you think that the hype, if we want to call it this way, that Formula One is having, thanks to social media, content creator, Drive to Survive, and just the driver using social media a lot more that they were doing years ago, do you think it's gonna last a long period of time? It's just gonna be something that is gonna go for the next 2 or 3 years, or is gonna be something that is a decade long?
That is a controversial question, and I feel like everyone's starting to talk about it, because we left, the turbo hybrid era where Mercedes was very, very dominant, and then we had like this really exciting season, and this was all post Drive to Survive, where everyone's there's more eyes on the sport than there had been for a while. And then it's almost like it became like a celebrity culture, like it just exploded really quickly. And now everyone's wondering, now that Red Bull's so dominant and Max has been so impressive this season, and he's winning races by 30 seconds, and people are talking, oh, it's boring, it's this, it's that. In my opinion, I don't think that the hype is going to go anywhere. I think that it's obviously going to go through like an evolution and a change, and there are going to be some people, obviously, if they're solely watching the sport to see a different person win a race, week in and week out, maybe this isn't the sport for them. But I personally think that when you start watching the sport and you start noticing all of the strategies and the tire compounds, and there's so many things that go into the setup for each weekend. Looking at Singapore this weekend, it's such a physical race. It's so hot, it's so long. And I think the more that you start learning about Formula One and getting excited about it, I think it's just going to go through an evolution. And we have so many people online creating content and talking about it on podcasts, YouTube channels, different social media platforms, that I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's going to still be really, really big and really exciting. Of course, there's going to be people who might taper off because they're looking for maybe something, they want that, crazy, controversial Abu Dhabi 2021 ending. And, that's, everyone has their own reasons for watching sports, right? But I personally, I don't think that the hype is going to go anywhere. I think if anything, we're just going to see more and more people talking about it, and maybe start talking about different series, whether they start creating content for IndyCar or Formula E, or more of the endurance series. I think we might see more people kind of dipping their toes into other series too, because motorsports as a whole, there's so many different exciting series within the sport. So that's kind of what I expect to see, is maybe people not only talking about F1, but kind of dipping their toes into other sports.
Yeah, I think also we were talking about, I don't know if you follow the MotoGP. So how it was one of maybe more famous, the Formula One, during the Valentino Rossi era. And then after Valentino, there was a drop in the audience. And now with these new drivers, MotoGP is coming back again. So it's also it also goes like a wave, you know, the same for Formula One in the end. And also, as you said before, the fact that we have social media, the team also do a lot of content, so you have a lot of behind the scenes. So maybe before you only just watching the race, you were watching the race. So after the domination of Michael Schumacher, the domination of Lewis Hamilton, someone could have said like, okay, I don't want to watch anymore. But now you have a lot of other things because there is the content and all the behind the scene, all the news that are now reachable also for us because they post it on Twitter, they post it on Instagram. So I think also they continue to engage with us also with all the information they give us. So I don't think the hype is gonna go down now. So
yeah. We're constantly being fed. I think we're just so lucky, and like these admins are working day in and day out. I don't know, like, do they ever get a day off? I don't know,
no,
but
I don't think so.
but they have like, and it's so fun. Like, I feel like they're just having so much more fun with it, and we get like these really cool behind the scenes and drivers doing filters on TikTok and like funny videos with Toto, right? Like, I feel like we're so lucky to kind of witness this evolution of content. And then I know you're talking about the Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton domination eras. Right now, we're in the Max domination era. We're witnessing history right now. And I think that's really cool to be a part of, whether or not you're a Max Verstappen Red Bull fan or not. I think most people know that I'm a Ferrari fan, so it's been pretty a roller coaster of a season, let's say. But I think you can still really respect what's happening. I mean, Red Bull is, so excellent. You just see their pit stops and it's flawless. And Max Verstappen is he feels like he just doesn't make mistakes for the most part. And it's really cool that we're kind of witnessing history. And then we're also witnessing history in terms of the evolution of content and people having just maybe a little bit more fun with it. So I agree with you. I don't think the hype's going anywhere, but it's always a wave. Like, it's just, we're going to go in and out and you just ride the wave.
exactly.
I was talking about Max and Red Bull with a friend of mine while I was in Monza because he said, I'm not gonna go on the track if Max win and all of that. And I told him, everyone thinking that Max is the bad guy. He's arrogant and all of this stuff. And I said, I don't think Max is a bad person. Actually, I think he's a teddy bear. He's probably one of the most kindest person I've ever saw across social media. And, of course, Red Bull is a team with a lot of geniuses because we saw what Adrian Newey did with the car. He created, as I always say in our episode, he created a rocket ship instead of a car. So, he put someone in the car that is capable of driving it properly. And also because we are talking about Red Bull, I want to go a little bit more controversial than the question before. I don't know if you saw about a couple of statements that were made by Red Bull about Checo, and of course, social media content creator and fan are expecting a statement by Red Bull because of this allegation and this statement that were made by Helmut Marko. And I wanted to ask you, how much do you think content creator influence the public opinion of team? Because of course we saw that if a team does something wrong and content creator think that they did something wrong, usually there is a good response by the team. And when that doesn't happen, usually the team get canceled in some way, if we want to say something like that.
Well, first of all, I think what Helmut said is just completely inappropriate and false. And this isn't the first, second, or third time that he said really racist things. And I think that's just completely unacceptable. And it makes me really upset as a fan sometimes when you're seeing that in public. But as far as the influencers of content creators or online, I don't know if necessarily we influence it, but I think because of the power in numbers, it's sort of like you can't avoid accountability in this when that happens, because everyone online is going to be talking about it, and you can't just brush things like that under the rug. It's way too serious, and he's way too much of a prominent figure within the Red Bull space to not acknowledge what he said and how damaging those words can be to so many people. And so I think it's really important for teams to, act swiftly and not brush things out under the rug, because your words carry weight and they do
Yeah.
affect people. And it's really important to um, acknowledge when you've said something that is so damaging and pervasive to several communities, and in his case, cultures. And so I think it's really um, good that social media sort of forces people to be accountable in that aspect. I think sometimes social media can sort of contribute to this cancel culture, which can also be really hard on certain people. Not necessarily in this case with Helmut Marko. I think that's a completely different circumstance in my personal opinion, but I'm pretty sure that Helmut Marko came out and made a statement after the fact, sort of
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
apologizing
something
ish.
very, very light. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's good that social media is obviously, playing a role in that. I don't know necessarily if it influences teams, but teams are definitely, aware of what people are saying online. And for PR teams, right, they're watching everything online and all of the time. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no way to
We,
really
we
avoid what people are saying, and they know that they have to respond in one way or another.
Yeah,
Also because
it's something is always that is always I always say with Helmut Marko, I think that the PR team of Red Bull does overtime. They work outside the hours that they need to. And also, I want to go back a little bit about in IndyCar, because of course in the last couple of days after Laguna Seca, we saw we are seeing what is happening to Callum. And of course, it's not the same the first time that happened, unfortunately, and the first time that happened, his team talked about it. And I wanted to ask you, do you think they're gonna say something? Because of course, he's getting death threats because he hit his teammate. And I can imagine, because we saw what happened in Monza with Ferrari. I mean, we were the first one to say calm down, because you're giving us a heart attack. And on the other side of the ocean, we have August Canapino and Callum that are just racing against each other. And after the race, Callum gets, all these death threats, that it's unbelievable that he needs to go through something like that so young. Also because I
Yeah.
think he's a couple of years older than us, so.
Yeah, it's I mean, no one should be receiving threats like that online, and I think it's really sad that that's way more common than not in these spaces. I'm pretty sure that the team did make a statement yesterday on Instagram saying that they do not stand for any of these comments, and I think they shut off comments on their most recent posts. And I just wish that people would understand, like, that humans actually read messages and see those messages online. And to be like a keyboard warrior and writing the most awful comments online, I don't understand it personally. I'm someone who really wants to lift people up constantly. These drivers not only risk their lives, they work incredibly hard in very, very stressful conditions with very fine margins. And everyone makes mistakes sometimes. And I don't think anyone would purposefully, run into their teammate. And so I hope that people online can realize the weight of their words and maybe do some introspection on if you're sending those types of messages to people. And so I hope that um, we can hopefully see a shift in online culture, but unfortunately, I think if you look at any comment section of any driver, it's just there's so much hate and toxicity. And I think that's why it's so important that if you are online is to just consider the weight of your words when you're typing a comment or leaving a DM to someone. And I just don't think it's worth it to be incredibly unkind. Of course, you can be critical and you can have your opinion and you can, you know,
Mm.
of course, everyone has their own opinions, but just
Mm-hmm.
consider the weight of your words, right? And you don't have to
Of
be
course.
put someone down um, on a situation that you probably don't know a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't
Mm-hmm.
there, you weren't the one driving, you weren't, the engineer in the driver's ears. There's so many things, but I wish we lived in a world where there wasn't toxic online culture, but unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. So I think that what we can do is just try to be good examples and be kinder online and realize that
Mm-hmm.
we're human beings and everyone has feelings. And it's just incredibly inappropriate to
Yeah.
send messages like those to anyone for any reason because it's just wrong, in my opinion.
I think we see that like every day in our
Every day.
Italian F1 Twitter, also between Ferrari tifosi, so Ferrari fans, because there is this big difference between Charles fan, Carlos fan. I mean, we don't have that threats, of course, thank God, but
Good.
we see a lot of hate towards the drivers, also towards the two part of the tifosi. We also always said that we are Ferrari fan. Like
Mhm.
we are happy if Charles wins. We are happy if Carlo wins. We don't care. We want Ferrari to
We
win.
want Ferrari to win and not
Yeah,
have 9-second pit stops. Like we need to work together, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a team effort, and of course you can have your favorite drivers, and we all get very passionate. And if you want to support your driver however you want, but at the end of the day, it is a team, right? And so let's focus specifically for Ferrari. Let's just cheer Ferrari
for
on
a
and
win.
try
Yeah,
to,
to win.
like we need all the help that we can get sometimes. So I think that it can get really, really toxic online and it is really hard to read those things. I'm
Yeah,
sure. I see bits and pieces of it every now and again and I'm like, oh, I just need to shut my
exactly,
phone off, turn off
exactly.
and go for a walk outside and get some fresh air and um yeah, we just need to be a little bit kinder, and I know that's a naive thing to say, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, they're
Yeah,
human beings, right? So I don't think it's helpful to be so toxic and hateful to other people. You never know what someone's going through personally, and that's why being so mean to people, I just don't really understand the
yeah. It
point of
doesn't
it.
make any sense. It doesn't
No.
make
Yeah.
any sense. So
You would
talking
never
Um.
about
do it to someone in person, right? Like
yeah,
you wouldn't go up
exactly.
to someone and just like, tell them to do whatever. Like it's just the online creates this faux safe blanket. So you feel like, or people can feel like they can write whatever they want, which of course everyone's entitled to their opinions, but hopefully there can be a little bit more management and policing of those really, really toxic and inappropriate comments and behaviors, particularly that's directed at teams, at drivers, at content creators, podcasters. Hopefully, we can find a way to manage that.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
hope so. So talking about Ferrari winning, at least thanks to you, we are winning the 30 Thursday championship. At least we
Woo!
have something.
Yes.
So my question is, how did you came up with the idea of Thursday, and in general, where did you find your inspiration for the content you create?
Well, thank you. Isn't it so great that Ferrari is winning a championship? It's all that we have right now, so we're holding on. As far as the inspiration for Thirsty Thursday, I just randomly created a video. It was a Pierre Gasly thirst trap where he was in Lake Como with his signature orange swim trunks. and I was just talking about it, and it got a lot of people really, 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 really upset. It was one of my first viral videos, and people were immediately attacking my looks and how I was speaking. And I was like, oh, I think we've, there's a little bit of a pain point here. And it sort of, the evolution turned into a separate championship where it's basically just a recap of the social media activity for the previous week. And I think it's really fun because you have your drivers or your teams that you're rooting for, and it's just another fun championship to kind of connect with people online and bring points into it. And so I just think it's really fun how it's kind of gone from this silly little video that I made talking about the pretty aesthetic of Lake Como in the background and his orange swim trunks to now it's a full on championship that Carlos and Lewis are battling it out on the top. We have Lewis Hamilton, who won last year's championship, and now we have Carlos Sainz, who has turned over a new leaf on social media. So I just think it's really fun. And I've always just wanted to talk about things that I'm passionate about and connecting it to Formula One, whether that's astrology or fashion or Harry Potter or TV shows. I just love talking about Formula One, and I love being able to connect it to different things and really lean into being a woman and maybe being a little bit less traditional of the media messaging and talking about it how I love talking about it and being really authentically myself, because that way it's really easy for me to just continue posting every single day because I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm just being myself. I'm just a girl who loves Formula One. And I personally love the content that people create where you genuinely see them being themselves, whether they're talking um, about birth charts and Formula One, or they're talking about the tech setups, or they're talking about this. When people are really passionate and they're being genuine, I think that that content is doing particularly well right now. It doesn't have to be super rehearsed or anything. It's just someone's personality and their opinions and the way they speak about it. So I think that's really enjoyable for me is seeing all of these different creators, and then even more creators are coming in because they're being inspired by all of these pages that have started creating their own followings, and they want to create their own communities, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's so exciting to be a part of. And so yeah, I'm just incredibly grateful to be a part of this wave of people that are so excited about motorsports, specifically women and all over the world, just being able to um, talk about things and connect with things. I never, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would have met so many people who loved F1 and astrology and Harry Potter and pop culture and fashion, I would have been like, no way. There's no way that people like all of those things. But it is. And because when you really lean into what you love, you're going to find your community that way. And having that community within a sports fandom is what makes it feel, like that camaraderie and community is really what is like the cherry on top to enjoying the
Yeah.
sport, because you have people to talk about it with.
I think you found the perfect mix because you found the creativity, you being genuine, being yourself, and also the spicy, as we said before at the start, and also the astrology. I talk also with the girls before. I always wanted to drop my big three and ask
Oh, you
you,
need to.
yeah. So I am a Virgo sun like Carlos.
Ooh,
Then I
it's your
am a
season.
I am a Gemini rising and Libra moon.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
what do you think?
Ooh, Gemini rising, Libra moon, Virgo sun. You know what's interesting is, so whenever I do that on Instagram, I try to pick like 10. And people, I'm like typing it into my computer now so I can like try and look up their birth charts. But I'd actually like take a lot of time to like think about it and really try to understand. So Libra moon. Did you know that Esty Bestie has a Virgo sun, Libra moon? So you're like
Really?
yeah, you're 2/3 like Esty Bestie, which I think is a really big compliment because he's so wonderful and so nice. Let's see. I'm looking at a few things.
Also,
Maybe.
I'm so happy for you about the SD Bestie recognition you had because
Oh,
I use the SD Bestie name for my best friend now. So now she's SD Bestie all over the internet. So and also when he said in Monaco, SD Bestie on the podium, baby, I was so happy for you.
that was a win for all of us, I think. Just for a driver to really embrace a silly nickname and be excited about it. And now he's creating merch with it. I just think it's so, so cool for all of us, for everyone who was like, that's a dumb nickname, that's silly, that's
Yeah,
stupid. But for a driver who is on the podium in Monaco to say that, I just thought it was a win for all of the girls, all of the besties who have gotten hate for like talking about F1, creating silly nicknames. So that was just really exciting. I'm looking at it here. I think
yes.
um, I might go maybe a Daniel Ricciardo or a
I
Pierre
mean,
Gasly.
oh, that's
I
unexpected.
think I
But
think she's the perfect mix between the two of them because she is excited and full of energy as Daniel, and she's a little bit more like, I don't know how to describe Pierre. He's a little bit
crazy.
mysterious, yeah, crazy and mysterious like Pierre. So yeah, that's
I
perfect, the
feel like
perfect
you
one.
both would be a lot of fun at parties, but you have like the Virgo sun to like keep everyone in order, and everyone needs a
Yeah,
Okay.
Virgo in their life to
yeah.
help keep us in order. So I think those that would be a really
Hmm.
fun thing. I would love to be at a party with all of you. That would be
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you, did they ever told you what was um, Bottas' reaction when you asked him about the intro for Thursday, or you just received the video and that was all?
I just received the video. It's like a 90-second video. It was really nice of him. But I don't know what the reaction was. I'm sure he was a little bit confused. I always laugh at like the little giggle after like let's find out who made it to the P1 this week, and then he like laughs a little or has a little giggle. That's I think my favorite part of it. But it was a really nice message that he sent, kind of talking about cycling and saying thank you for being fans. And it was a really genuinely nice video for him to send. And I was just so surprised that he agreed to say
Yeah. After that, he decided to participate with all the photos,
that.
uh, all
Yes,
the Bottas photos.
yes, he loves showing his botas
Yeah.
quite frequently, which
Yeah,
whatever makes him happy, we will support him in whatever he
exactly.
wants to
Yeah.
do, of course. But
Of
he
course.
really seems like he's living his best life right now, and that just makes me really happy for him.
Hmm. And also a little question about, again, SheLovesF1 and content creator. What advice would you give someone who wants to become a content creator and work in the motorsport industry?
As far as working in the motorsport industry, I think the biggest thing is networking and just trying to meet people, and whether it's like on LinkedIn or going to different motorsport events or being really active online. Because in this space, I think a lot of it is about who you know and making those connections.
Hmm.
So constantly just being networking for any job, I feel like that's always a really good thing. And then for people who want to get started into content creation, I think the number one piece of advice is just do it. I think there's always a lot of fear and nerves, and you want it to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And sometimes you just have to click upload or post, and you kind of learn as you keep going. You can look at some of my like first videos, and they're so bad. They're so bad, but you learn from it being bad, and you grow, and you kind of see what works and what doesn't work. And
Hmm.
the other thing that I think is really important is not trying to be like someone else, and really figuring out what your voice is and being really authentic to yourself. Because I think when you're trying to be someone else, it comes off like you're trying to be like
Yeah.
someone else. And when you're really authentically yourself and you're just kind of embracing what makes you you and talking about motorsport how you want to talk about it, I think that's always the best route to go, especially on platforms like TikTok or Instagram. Is not, you know, being a copy of someone else, but really owning what makes you you, because there's no other person in this world who can look like you, talk like you, be passionate about motorsport in the way that you are. And so, if you really lean into that, even though it's really scary and there might be some mean comments, I just think that when you really lean into being yourself, that is what your superpower is. And the more that you kind of niche into yourself, you will find your community. You're gonna attract it. Whether you realize it or not, that's just how the community is created. And it feels really good when you've been yourself and you find other people who like love you for being you. And I think that's really the best thing that we're seeing right now is all these communities that have come out of this, and they're all so different and unique, but they all, love the same thing. It's just in different ways, and I think that's really cool to witness.
Yeah. Also, I think that not being yourself in the long term is not sustainable because so also
It's
and also
exhausting to try and pretend.
yeah, exactly. So I have
Um,
another
I wanted.
question.
I'm
By
sorry. I'm
okay.
sorry for being so silent, but Beatrice and Aurora are doing an amazing job. So I'm just here enjoying myself and listening because you have a really good energy. And I wanted to ask about other content creators, maybe more American than, I don't know, European, or I don't know which one do you know the best. And I just wanted to ask, if you have ever meet some of them on race weekends, or maybe just write on them on Instagram. And I want to know if they give back this energy that you're sharing with us, or maybe they are more I don't know, taken back by other content creators, or they are, I don't know, what's the relationship with these other content creators.
I love meeting other content creators. I try to be online like a very like happy, comment happy. I love lifting people up because the more people that are in this space, I think the better. And I love meeting them in person because it's just more people to talk about the sport with. So whether you're on track and you're meeting someone that is an internet friend that becomes a real life friend, and maybe you go to dinner or grab a cocktail together, and it just is a really cool way to meet people. And like I said, I've made some of my who I would consider my best friends from this space, from the track. And I think that's so cool to witness in real, like from online to real life. And I think there's a saying that says, like, no one will hype you up or support you like an internet friend that you've never met. And I think that's so true. Is you just have people that are so excited about what you're doing. And I think when you give someone love and support and encouragement and hype, they're going to give it back to you. And so that's what I really try to do in this space, is always be hyping people up and being really excited for them. And when they get experiences, whether it's with a team or on track or some sort of partnership, I think it's a win for all of us, because when they get something, it's just going to, multiply for other people. So I think just really being excited for people in this space. Um, of course, I don't think everyone's going to always get along because we're humans and we're all different. But I've only had like really positive experiences with my my dog is barking. Sorry about that. But I've only had really positive experiences with people within this space. I think it's such an awesome community of people, whether it's when I've traveled to European races and I've seen people, or here in America too. I just think it's really cool to be a part of that, and I hope it just keeps growing, because when you're on track and you just meet everyone together, it feels like Christmas, like you're just all together and it's like one big party and celebration, and you're at your favorite place in the world, which is the racetrack.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, also, and I want the last couple of questions, I'm going to ask one, and then Bea has a very, very important question to
Yes.
ask you because, yeah, because it's very important. She want to know. So what is next for SheLovesF1? What should we expect as fan of SheLovesF1?
So I'll be at the United States Grand Prix at Coda next month. So I think that's like my Super Bowl. It's a race that I've been going to ever since it started. And so I look forward to it every year. And this year I'm just really excited because there's going to be so many creators there to be able to connect with and see in real life and just take the friendship from online to in person. There's just nothing quite like it. And then of course being on track is exhilarating. And I hope that the sky is the limit. I just did a giveaway for tickets at Circuit of the Americas. And that was a really big thing for me, is just like giving back and making it possible for more people to go to races. And so I hope that that is like only the big, like the tip of the iceberg. I really want to be able to make that possible for a lot of people, and just continuing to get people excited about motorsport and get for races, and hopefully connecting with teams and really fun experiences, and hopefully growing in that direction. But that was just really cool for me personally, was to be able to give away tickets. So hopefully it will turn into like flights and hotels and meet and greets or something like that. That would be the dream, right? Because for me, like, I wouldn't have been able to have experiences like I had in Miami, for example, without everyone who supports me every day. And so it's really, really important for me to acknowledge all of the people who have allowed me to have an experience like that. And I call them my besties, but I truly, like, I get tears in my eyes thinking about it, because you all mean so much to me. And I just get I like can't believe that um, people care about what I have to say, like this silly little girl who loves Formula One. But I really think that women, especially, like, we're starting to see that we're not going anywhere, and we're really, we're taking over this space, and we're not going to be silenced, and we're not going to be talked down to anymore for how we talk about this sport. And I feel really, really grateful to be a part of it and to have conversations like this one with amazing, intelligent, wonderful women. And I think it's, the sky is the limit for Sheila's F1.
Thank you. I hope you will
I'm
thinking about us when you are going to sell the tickets, and you will remember about your friend from Italy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hopefully, maybe we can do, a Monza giveaway. That would be awesome, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wish that, like, more teams and more circuits can understand the power of, giving back to the fans that are talking about the sport in so many different ways, because it's a once in a lifetime, it's a dream opportunity. And hopefully we can get more people to experience that in real life, because it's magical and it's unforgettable. And I think if I had, a genie who could grant me three wishes, like, I would definitely wish that, like, all of the besties could come with me to a race, and we could sell on a grandstand together and, like, blast Taylor Swift or something.
Oh, yeah.
That would just be like the dream for me, right? Is just to have a grandstand full of all of us just blasting like Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo, and then Daniel Ricciardo comes in and is singing it with us, right? Like, that would be so, so fun. So hopefully one day we can make that happen and experience it all together.
I'm curious about what a person on the other side of the ocean think about Las Vegas. Because we here are a little bit confused of what to expect. And so, what do you think it's going to be like?
I think it's going to be a show. I think Las Vegas is, a very entertainment focused city. I used to live and work in Las Vegas, so I feel like I have a unique perspective on Las Vegas events. It's definitely going to be the fanfare, the bells and whistles. It's definitely that type of race, which is obviously something that Formula One seems to be interested in. I wouldn't say it's going to be like a traditional race where, there's going to be a lot of celebrities there. There's going to be a lot of influencers. We've seen how much the tickets cost, which is hard because I don't think the norm, an average person has the discretionary income to be able to spend that much money on tickets. Not to mention how much, accommodations would cost, travel, food and beverage. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I can say from like a visual aesthetic perspective, it's definitely going to be out of this world, like Las Vegas does sporting events like, a show. So I think from like an entertainment value, there's definitely going to be a lot of fanfare in that action, but hopefully they can temper the fanfare and the Vegas, lights with a little bit more realistic options for fans who really love the racing and maybe want to go to Las Vegas and experience what Las Vegas has to offer. But it is hard, right? Because you have so many people who love this sport, but aren't going to be able to attend that race because of the financial restrictions of, a $777,000 ticket. That's just not feasible for 99.9% of the population. So that's hard.
Also, I think, I watched, I look at the other day, the time of quali of race, they put quite late quali. I think it's around midnight, if I'm not wrong. And I was talking about it the other day with Bea, and said maybe they put those time because they want us European fan to be able to watch these races and have the usual number that they have on TV. And also you were talking about the financial cost and weight that going to a race can have. And I think especially me and Bea, we saw both sides of the coins because we went to Monza, which is personally, I think, is one of the less expensive races because, for a general admission ticket, I paid $150 for the 3 days. And, food was normal cost, a cafe and espresso, you were paying it €1.50, which is the normal price. And then we volunteers at Zandvoort, and we saw the prices of food, and it was absolutely crazy. We paid, I think, €8 for some chips. So it's I think every racetrack has its own prices, but it's getting expensive as the day comes. Of course, all of us want to go, but personally, being a university student, I have a very small budget to spend on races also because, if I want to go to a season opening for at Imola and I want to stay there with a media pass, I need to stay there all 3 days. So it's going to be expensive. And, maybe I can afford to go to Monza or to Imola. So I hope they're going to fix these issues because I think people are going to start to not go as it happened this year in Monza because, for Sunday, if I don't remember wrong, grandstand was around €500, which is a lot of money. Of course, you were at the start-finish line, but it was still €500. And, I don't think Italians are willing to pay that much for the ticket. So let's hope that.
Yeah, I think also because, as you said before, Michaela, is that you in America have the show. We have in Europe, we have maybe the DJ set during the race, in the middle when there is no race. But I followed also for most of my life the NBA. So I know that your sport is basically the show for the spectators. So you value a lot the show.
Yeah.
And so also I think, of course, the prices are very high, but also you pay for the whole experience because as we talk with Miriam during our race review in Monza, I was talking about the fact that a lot of people here in Italy, but also in Zandvoort, came only for the F1 race. So they didn't see the F2, they didn't see the F3. And I was like, you pay so much money to come to the race for all the 3 days, and then you came only at 3 in the afternoon to see the Formula One. And I was like, why? Because you pay for the whole experience. You pay for, because the weekend, the race weekend is like a festival, So
Right.
I think you have to live all of the experience, the fan zones and everything. So also about the fan zone, how is the fan zone in America? Do you know if it's different from here, or do you have the same things?
I would say it's the same things. Like the European races that I've attended, which I've personally really enjoyed. It's you still have like the DJ sets. I remember last year at Monza, I think it was Timmy Trumpets who was playing. And it was just like the magic of Monza is something that I think everyone should experience once in their life. I mean, it's just such a beautiful historic race circuit to begin with. And then you have all the different things that are going on. And so hopefully people can recognize the feeder series like F2, F3, and whatever else is going on that weekend. Hopefully people can start to get really excited about those too, because that's where we're going to see drivers in Formula One in the future. So if you're able to see them as they grow in their careers, it only, in my opinion, just adds to the magic that is Formula One, the pinnacle of motorsport. But in America, we have the fan zones. We have things like that. It's definitely, American sports is, like you said, it's a spectacle. There's, so many things that are happening. I know a lot of people had a lot of things to say, for example, about like the driver introductions in Miami. That
Yeah.
was really, everyone had their opinion about it. It's, I don't think it's either right or wrong. It was definitely, an American thing. They love like those introduction style things. They do it in NASCAR, they do it in IndyCar, and so I think they were just trying to do it for Formula One too. But I can understand that if you've been to a race before in Europe, you may not understand, seeing that in America. And I don't think there's, a right or a wrong way. I think it's just different, and that's why you go to different racetracks, because each race and each racetrack have their own personality. And I think that's what makes it really cool, is that they're really different. So being at Monza versus being at Zandvoort, those are going to be two entirely different experiences. And I think, hopefully we can find a way to manage the prices enough so that people do have the opportunities to kind of explore the world and see what those different races are like. One day I'd
Yeah.
love to go to Albert Park in Australia and see what the vibe is like there, and really experience that, or the race this weekend in Singapore. I'm sure that's entirely different. And I think that's what makes Formula One so unique, is they go to these different countries all over the world, and you have the magic of that country at that race. And I think that's what makes it so important and magical. And hopefully they can weave a little bit more of the culture and the country into that race, so we can learn more about it and what makes that country so beautiful, and so unique and individualized, and hopefully, increase tourism for those different places,
Yeah.
and celebrate the magic of what that country has to offer, right? Because I think
Yeah.
they're all just so different. I don't think one is better than the other. Of course, I feel like Italy's pretty high up there on the list for me because I love that country, but there's so many beautiful places that they travel to all over the world, and they all have their own unique things that make them beautiful and fun. And so hopefully people can recognize that no race is going to be the same as the other. They all just have their own kind of special attributes.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Go ahead,
do you
Bea.
have
Ask the
any other?
question.
Yeah. If you don't have any other question, girls, I do the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit afraid you weren't able to come to the interview, because I know that you saw the news about Carlos that doesn't use the conditioner. So I was very worried about you. I was
Oh,
like,
I was in mourning yesterday. I really
yeah,
was. The no conditioner news. I mean, God has his favorites. And, if I didn't use conditioner, my hair would look a lot
Oh,
worse than it does.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
also,
yeah. Ugh,
I know, I know that we call his hair like the eighth wonder of the world. And
yes.
also, I know that he and Lando are like besties. And
Mhm.
we know that Lando use for the curls to be curling, he used the Moroccan oil. I don't know if you know the product. So I was like, why, Carlos, don't you follow your friend with this
Why?
information? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I'm really happy we got the answer, but I'm also a little bit in mourning because I just can't relate to not using conditioner. So yesterday was a really hard day for all of us.
Yeah. You waited so much for the answer, and then
uh,
you were a little bit disappointed, I think.
Also
I think
think
I'm not surprised because I think it's just it's the eighth wonder of the world. That's what makes it so unique. And I love that he was like, my hair doesn't look perfect after a race, and we're like, okay,
It
Carlos.
was like, yeah, it was
But
like my hair doesn't look perfect, and he
yeah,
put the hand on the head. Like,
but maybe
oh,
is one
Carlos.
of those is one of those men that use shampoo, but in the shampoo there's also conditioner and there's like
The
all
two
the
one.
formula
The
that you
two
would
one.
Yeah,
all of
Oh
himself
God.
just with that. So
Yeah.
maybe
true. We need a follow-up question with
Yeah.
the product.
yeah.
The
exactly.
name of the product. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He needs to get a brand deal so he can make money because he's an entrepreneur, right? But so hopefully he can secure the brand deal and then we can figure out what is that shampoo because that shampoo has magical powers.
Yeah, exactly. So this was my last very important question.
the last
The
question.
most
Maybe
Well,
important.
Yeah.
I have one, but I don't know if you want to say that to us, but feel free. But who is the P1 in your heart? Who is like the I don't know if you want to say, but I was curious.
I think the one thing that people always ask me is who's my favorite, and She Loves F1 doesn't have favorites. She really tries to like make it easy for everyone, and I think that's my goal has always been to try and lift all of the drivers up because they get so much hate all the time, and so I really try to um, obviously there's people that I talk about more than others, but I really try and spread it among all of them because I think they're all so great in their own unique ways and trying to celebrate each of them for that has really been the goal of mine. So hopefully people have noticed that there is an effort there to try and keep it a little bit of a spreading the love to
Yeah.
everyone.
I think we should give Mick a couple of bonus points for the step up from last season because I think the moment he entered in Mercedes, something switched in his head and love the photos. The one
Oh
on the
yeah,
board, oh, great, love it.
I know. He's
Okay,
like in his Lana Del Rey era. It's
Yeah.
amazing
yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
and we are
So,
we are all here for it. So
yeah. And also, I wanted to ask you before, but I forgot about the 30th Thursday. How did you came up with the uh, parch point bonus, the extra point bonus that you give? And also, I love that every time you do the dance, and most of the time you maybe took the chair with your feet or something happened when you do the round.
I have to be honest, a lot of the things that I come up with, it's just my brain is a very crazy place that's just constantly churning out ideas. Like if you saw my iPhone notes app, it's like I'll just be showering and I'll have an idea about something. So it's really just how my brain works, which is um, very strange and it's just a nonstop thing. And then the Parch Point bonus dance, I think I was just really excited about a photo and that just happened one day and then people were laughing about it. So now I just make a fool out of myself every week and I do the Parch Point bonus dance.
I think it's beautiful, and we go back to the thing that is genuine and it's represent yourself. So I think it's
Yeah.
perfect. Chef kiss, like we say
Oh,
in
yeah,
chef's
Italy.
kiss.
Yeah,
yeah,
Chef's
yeah.
kiss.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Michaela, for again accepting the interview, and we can wait to see what the people think. I'm pretty sure they're gonna love it. We were talking about it a couple of episodes ago, spoiling a little bit that something exciting was coming. So thank you very much again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was such a wonderful conversation, and hopefully we can see each other in real life at a race soon, and give each other some hugs in real life. That's my favorite thing to do. But honestly, it was so great talking to all of you, and hopefully it's not the last.
Let's hope.
Yeah, we hope so. And of course, we hope to see you soon in person. So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time, for making time for us, of course.
Of course.
And I hope you have a wonderful day since it's still morning.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much again. Bye.
Oh, bye.
Thank you very
Kisses.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, girls.